jumping at Ed Orgeron here.
Okay.
Lions have yet to play an offensive snap with a lead this year. That's a bummer.
I feel so bad for them.
We're 6 games in. All right, more fun stuff that I do want to talk about. Ed Orgeron, did you see any of that? Obviously, he's leaving after next season. Did you see any of the other stuff as to potentially why?
Because they're bad?
So he got a divorce after the national championship game a couple of years ago or whenever they won it.
Yes.
He, I guess, would have his girlfriends in attendance at LSU practices and would let his girlfriend's kids take part in team drills.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now, is that more crazy or is this more crazy? He pulled up to a woman at a gas station wearing exercise attire. Hey, you look like you work out. We could work out together. The woman informed him she was married and pregnant, to which he responded, why does that matter?
Wow.
Allegedly, she was the wife of a high-ranking LSU official.
Oh,
that
weird.
word reached the LSU Board of Supervisors, and that, let's see here, and the Board of Supervisors is a collection of prominent Louisiana attorneys and business owners appointed by the governor who make the most important decisions at LSU, which then it probably reached, obviously, the athletic director. Why does that matter?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the guy, and I mean, this is the same man that said that he works out every day because he can't get up out of bed or whatever without knowing he can still kick another man's ass. Very on brand for Ed. His name's Ed.
Ed.
When you call him anything other than Coach O, it like takes him down at least 3 notches. Points, notches.
I'm more of a peg
units.
guy.
Peg?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Well, that's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate soundbite right there.
What?
Yeah, that's there. Unfortunately. So, yeah. Well, here's the locker room. That was actually I wanted to talk about it because I just saw that right before we came on, and I thought that was actually
That's
really
incredible.
funny. Why does that matter? Just an all-time quote.
It's a fair question.
It is. Is it? That's the question we should have. Technically, well, how did he say this? Let's be careful here. How did he say this? Okay, yeah, he started off with, "Hey, you look like you work out." That's probably a smoother way would have been like, "No, there's not a smooth way."
Okay, so
a smooth way to do it.
Okay, so at the gym, I generally think, and I think it's a consensus among most, that it's a faux pas to like hit on people or ask people out at the gym. And so I only have one AirPod, so I'm always
Open for
observing.
business.
Well, no, yeah, sure. I'm always observing what other people are doing at the gym, and so when I see other guys like hit on girls, it's so uncomfortable, and I watch it flame out, and it's entertaining, but it's just a painful watch at the same time. This guy the other day asked a woman that was at the squat rack if she was training for something. And I was like, do you think you're slick? Like, is that like a nice way to introduce the conversation? Are you training for something? And she said, no, I'm just working out. And that was basically the end of the conversation. I was like, dude, that was one of the worst whiffs I've ever seen in my life. But anyway.
Yes, yeah. I don't think there's a good way to do it.
I don't think there is either.
At a gas station. Like, hey, looks like you work out. You know, a better way, I think. I mean, he's famous though, so if she's a wife of a high-ranking LSU official, she knows who he is.
She has to.
So she's like, why is Coach doing that? He should have said something like, hey, I'm new to if he really is trying, like, hey, I'm new to town or whatever, or however you want to say, like, do you know a good place to work out? And she's like, oh, I go here. And it's like, oh, you look like you work out. Could we maybe work out together? I don't know. But that was the worst way you could have done it.
Well, especially if she's pregnant, too, just jumping to, hey, you look like you work out.
Yeah.
Like, what are you working out?
Bold strategy. Bold strategy there, Ed. All right. Well, here we are in the locker room, episode number 62. All sorts of fun topics here. A lot of football as usual. But we do have a couple interesting ones in there. We are live in the Holly Mason building, downtown Spokane. Spokane Talks. And Sam back there helped produce us. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Hey, I just do what I can, boys. I do what I can.
That's what I like to hear. All right, number 62. Do you have any interesting jerseys? There's not many.
No.
Yeah, there's not many.
I do not. No, it's an awful number.
So the Mariners, not until 1998 did someone wear number 62.
Wow.
And then this year there were 3 who wore number 62. Brady Lale, Daniel Zamora, and Sean Doolittle all wore number 62 for the Mariners this year. As far as the Seahawks go, the most recent 62 is Drew Nowak. horrible.
Oh
player,
my
like 6
God.
years ago.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about
Yeah,
it.
he was trash. And
Wasn't he
then
one of the converted defensive linemen that we tried to put on our offensive line?
He could have been. That sounds familiar, like from some like Indiana or some sort of Midwest school. He was some farm boy. Yeah, that sounds about right. The most famous number 62 in Seattle sports history, a very good number 62, is Chris Gray, center.
Oh, yeah.
Of,
Okay.
the best offensive line in Seahawks history, and one of the best offensive lines in NFL history. You know, two Hall of Famers. Chris Gray's borderline, Sean Locklear at right tackle, and probably Floyd Womack would probably be the one you put at right guard. Floyd Porkchop Womack.
Also, did you see your lower third?
No, I missed it. Can you toss our lower thirds back up there? People need to remember who we are. Classic.
I thought it was pretty good.
That's not bad.
I like it.
That's not bad.
I like it.
All right. God, I don't know. My mic seems like it's in the wrong place. It's really bothering me. It is a personal problem. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for pointing that out. Do you know what's not a problem?
Is
Let's
it
take
like
a basketball team
being
ranked number 1 preseason AP for the second season in a row? GU spent the entirety of the 2020 season ranked number 1. They start off this season ranked number 1 as well. I think they're the 6th team all time to be ranked preseason number 1 in back-to-back years. It's kind of cool.
I suppose a natty would have been cool too.
We don't talk about last year anymore. That's the only thing I'll mention about last year forever moving forward.
It's rather selective
until
of
we
you.
talk more about it. But they do. UCLA is number 2, so they do play UCLA. A couple other teams there in the top 25. So as we get closer to the season, which we are very close to the season, we will talk more Zags. But they are currently preseason top 25 again. Sounders lost. I do want to mention them real quick. They're getting close to playoffs here. The last regular season game happens in about 3 weeks, and they are on pace to score more points as far as their record goes in the regular season, their best regular season ever in franchise history, which is also saying something considering they've been missing arguably 2 of their best players all year.
Yeah.
And 3, I mean, if you count Stephen Fry missing most of the season as well, that's actually pretty incredible. So, Kraken are 3 games in.
Mm-hmm.
They have a loss, a win, and an overtime loss. So I think they're 1-1-1. I think is what the record is in the NHL is how they do it. McWhippy's back. Hello, guys. What's up?
How we doing?
As always, nice to see. So the Kraken had their first game against Vegas, which was sweet. That whole production is really cool. They do such a good job there in Vegas.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, they literally like eviscerated a Kraken. Like it
Yeah,
literally
no,
caught
I
on
know.
fire and like completely destroyed.
That was really impressive.
Really,
yeah.
really cool. And then they played Predators, who they beat, and then they just tied the Blue Jackets. Yes.
So that goes down as a tie, even though they lost in overtime.
Can confirm it is a 1-1-1 record.
Perfect.
That's so strange.
So what happens is, so they obviously got 0 points for the loss, they got 3 for the win, and then they got a point for the tie. And since they lost in overtime, Columbus got another point. So Columbus ended up with 2 points from that game.
So if you go into overtime,
you get a point automatically.
You get 1 point with the potential for scoring 2 points if you get the win.
Total, correct. So there's 3 points to give out when you go to overtime.
I'm going to be learning so many different things about hockey. Like even just watching, I watched like the final period of the Nashville game, and it's just like, and then I watched, their inaugural game, their first game. And it's just like, oh my God, I'm learning so many new things like all the time about the sport. So many of the intricacies and the subtleties that, you just don't know. It's such a strange sport.
It's a very interesting sport.
But it's awesome.
I very much enjoy it.
That was a stressful third period against Nashville. Oh my God. Like, did you watch any of that one?
No, I couldn't remember. I was
That's
playing
right.
volleyball. And
That's right.
You didn't believe me. I actually was playing volleyball.
No, I believe you. We discussed that you were playing.
And it was that we
volleyball.
won. We won, not to switch subjects, but I'm going to do it real quick. We played 6 sets, 6 games within 2 matches, and we won 5 of the 6.
Very nice.
Granted, the second match we played was against 6 people who had never seen each other in their lives before they walked into that gym.
So is it really a win?
Yes.
Okay.
For sure, a win.
Free agent.
That's fine. Whatever. Hey, win's a win, is it not?
Yeah.
I'm just getting this on Twitter as I'm talking and trying to talk sports and do all this other stuff. So going back to the Kraken, yes, I did watch the highlights though of that Nashville game. It looked very intense. That's a tough environment to be in as well.
The last like 7 or 8 minutes, they literally just played defense. It was just
Right.
The Predators were in their zone, right?
Yep.
Right terminology. Yeah.
Yep.
The entire period.
In the Kraken's defensive zone, I guess if you want to be technical.
Defensive zone. Okay.
They were in the attack. The Predators were in the attacking zone for most.
It was just stressful. There was so much anxiety. Just you're holding on, just watching the clock. Like, hey, can we speed this up? Can we speed this up? As shots are just being rifled all around Grubauer.
And Grubauer's actually done really well.
He's good
for the grand scheme of things. You can't expect.
And some of the goals that he's let up have really been the defense just having boneheaded turnovers and just being really sloppy
and being a little overly aggressive as far as they're just overcommitting is kind of what's happening. So, and I was kind of seeing this, what's happening, as they drop back into their defensive shell, especially kind of like on a counter, you see a lot of guys rotate toward the puck. They're kind of puck chasing and even the Kraken even mentioned that was kind of the problem. Like they came out with so much energy that they all wanted to just get the puck and they all wanted to make plays, which makes sense. But that's something that they have seemed to at least kind of settled down a little bit, which makes sense. Granted, they're 3 games in. They play tonight. They play tomorrow, which will wrap up their first week in the NHL. And that'll be super interesting to see how they kind of respond to some of their game plan adjustments moving forward. But their attack looks better than a lot of people thought. They're putting a lot of shots on net. Their defense, which was expected to be their strong suit, still really good. Just seems as they're trying to learn their positioning. They're trying to just gel with the guys, which makes sense. I mean, they've never played together outside of practice, and they're 3 games in. 4 games if you count the preseason on top of that, or maybe I think it was 5 games in the preseason.
Might they be good?
Well, they're the Pacific Division. Did you say something?
I was literally just clearing my throat.
Oh, okay. Did you? It sounded like you was going to say something. Right?
No, I thought that was a genuine throat clearing.
My apologies for interrupting your monologue.
Yeah, I was really about to just break down into a good one there. What were we talking about?
Soliloquies.
We were talking about the Kraken and.
Are they good? Pacific Division.
They're good. Yes, Pacific Division is not very good from top to bottom. They obviously have the Golden Knights who are sitting there at the top, who are going to be really good as always. And I don't know who else is in the Pacific Division, really.
See, we're just learning new things all the time.
I know Edmonton's in there. Edmonton will be good just because they're Edmonton and they have good players. There's only 8 teams in the division. Let's see here. Now that the Kraken are in it. So it is now the Ducks who are bad, the Flames who are, I think, fine, the Oilers who are good, the Kings who actually just destroyed Vegas, if I'm not mistaken, which was really weird because I don't think they're good. San Jose's average. Kraken, I'm going to say above average because I'm a homer. The Canucks aren't good, and the Knights are really good. And I think a couple teams make it from each division. I don't really know the playoff structure, but I want to say I would have to guess at least 2 because there's 4 divisions. So 2 teams. I would think 2 teams per division.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not sure how it works either.
Anyway, they're gonna compete for a playoff spot, and they're gonna be exciting doing so because they have their first home game here in a couple weeks. The Climate Pledge Arena just had their first run through with all their employees to make sure they're ready for when the Kraken come back home. So it's just exciting times. It's really fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, like we said, they had 5 games last week. They had 5 games in their first week, and it's crazy. It's actually really weird because these are 4 o'clock games. They've had a lot of 4 o'clock games. They have a 4 o'clock game tonight. They have a 4 o'clock game tomorrow, and they had a 4 o'clock game on Thursday, right? I think that was a 4. Maybe it was a 5 actually. May have been 5.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, it's just different, because when we think about sports, when we think about the NFL's consistently, there's not a big variance. But in the wintertime, you have Gonzaga basketball, and they're like always 6, 7, 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Always. They don't play afternoon games. They don't play early evening games. And so you have the Kraken coming in at 4 o'clock, and it's just been weird. It's been very different, but in a good way. It's kind of throwing a nice little wrench into my schedule, which I always enjoy. Right?
Yep.
I thought you were gonna hop in.
Nope.
And say something.
Got nothing.
Nothing else. That's fine. So yes, Kraken are 1-1-1. They play tonight, and they do play tomorrow as well. All right. So we mentioned this last week that we want to do our top Spokane athletes, and we are going to focus specifically on kind of like the long-term success, not just what was the exact criteria? Like,
I think we were more heavily weighting their professional success.
Right.
As opposed to what they did collegiately.
Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't weigh
Correct. Same.
some of it a little bit differently, but I I do have a couple here that definitely were really good locally. So we did a top 5 and then an honorable mention. The honorable mention can be, so we focused on Spokane, and our honorable mention could be from outside of Spokane. I don't know if you did someone outside of Spokane. I don't think I did. No, I did, actually. And so I will start with my number 1. My number 1 is John Stockton.
Yep.
Is that your number 1?
Yeah, I think we're going to have chalk here for the first couple, maybe even 3. I'm curious to see what the bottom of your list looks like, but it has to be John. John Stockton is Gonzaga. John Stockton is the NBA's all-time assist leader.
Right.
Hall of Famer.
When you talk point guards in the NBA, his name is usually the first to come up. You know, there's a little bit of Magic Johnson that comes up.
There's a little bit of Magic Johnson.
A little bit of Magic.
Yeah, a little Magic.
My thing is Stockton's in a different category than Magic Johnson is. You know, Stockton, he scored, but he was not a scorer.
Well, he was more of a fundamental point guard. He was really a facilitator in that essence of what the point guard position is to the game of basketball. Magic brought a lot of other things and was Magic more flashy. He was just fundamentally sound, and it definitely helped to have Karl Malone to just feed down on the low post.
Always
his
nice to
entire career.
Shove it to the mailman.
Yep.
Yeah, Stockton averaged 13 points a game. He played 19 years, which is a long career, and he was an Ironman. I think we talked about this last year. I think he only missed, outside of 1 year where he had a torn ACL or something, I think he only missed like 2 games a year over his entire career, which is insane. But yeah, he was very much a stereotypical point guard facilitator. 13 points a game, though, over a 19-year career is very good still. Mm-hmm. So he is still the NBA career leader in assists and steals. He was a 10-time All-Star, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and a 2009 Basketball Hall of Fame inductee. He led the NBA in assists a record 9 times.
Wow.
He's just, it's very impressive. So it's cool. Obviously, he still lives in Spokane, makes a lot of impact in the Spokane community. His son played at GU. His daughter played at GU. His other daughter played at Montana State. And so a lot of, obviously, background in Spokane. So I do have him number 1, as so do you. Number 2, Ryan Sandberg.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that just kind of comes down to the fact that he had, again, another long career. Very local, went to North Central. And I guess if you didn't know, most people do, but John Stockton went to Gonzaga Prep. But yeah, Ryan Sandberg went to North Central. Their baseball field on Washington is actually named after him as well. At the time, probably the best second baseman of all time, because at that point in history, second basemen weren't really known for their power nor their hitting so much as a defensive kind of specialist, speed kind of guy. But he played in 10 All-Star games, won 9 Gold Gloves, set the fielding percentage record as a second baseman. Got 989. Good for him.
That's insane.
He played a record 123 consecutive games at second base without an error. And in 16 seasons, he hit 285 with 282 home runs and 344 stolen bases.
That's an incredible
solid
career. Yeah.
Again, for a guy coming out of North Central. What's interesting, and I don't think they talked about it in this story here, someone told me, I don't think I remember who told me, someone semi-recently told me that Ryan Sandberg may have been a better football player than baseball player in high school.
I hate when people do that. Those conversations are so silly to me.
It's very interesting because obviously your game is going to project differently to the next level. You know, on a different. He wouldn't have been as successful in football as he was in baseball.
Well, and there are so many other factors and variables that when people talk about how, a very successful athlete that went professional and had a lot of success within their professional sport, actually that was their second or third best sport. It's like, okay, there's so many variables that you would actually, if you want to do the exercise, that you would have to consider that they would have been subjected to had they gone through a different path. I mean, you can't just one for one just translate and, project that they would have had the same success in another sport just because they happen to be better at it. But anyway.
I agree. So he's currently he was, I don't know when this article was written. I probably should have looked. 10 years ago. What's Ryan Sandberg up to? He was at the time a AAA manager for the Lehigh Iron Pigs, Philadelphia Phillies, AAA affiliate at the time.
That's incredible.
I know he ended up going on to manage the Phillies, but when was that? So he managed the Phillies from 13 to 15. I don't think it really shows what he's doing now. Oh, so he's, as of 2016, he joined the Cubs organization as a goodwill ambassador, made public appearances, did different events, attended Cubs games, meet and greets, things like that. So Still very impressive career. My number 3. Actually, who's your number 3? Let's let you go first.
Mark Rippon. Yep. Yours too?
Okay.
This is going great.
That's stupid. Well, yeah, stud. His daughter actually was came in. She is is however you want to look at it, the lead PR person for the Spokane Shock, who ended up playing some years in the lingerie football league, I guess technically is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Mark Rippon went to Shadle, so now we have Shadle, NC, and Gonzaga prep grads in the top 3. Went on to play at WSU, had a really good career there, and then played for Washington. Won the 1992 Super Bowl MVP. But he was a 6th-round draft pick, so it took him a couple of years to actually get into the NFL. But outside, the fact that he won a Super Bowl, was a Super Bowl MVP is awesome. But a lot of what I remember hearing about Mark Rippon throughout my life was just his balance throughout all the sports. And so everyone always talked about, now Ryan, again, going back to this, Ryan Sandberg could have been a better football player than he was baseball player. Mark Rippon was an all-state football, basketball, and baseball player at Shadle. So that's in a top division like that is wild. You look at a school like Odessa or some other small 1B school, you have a lot of kids who go out and play all sports. Newport, even potentially there in the NEA. But the problem is those sports overlap so much, and especially in this, over the last, 20 years, it's kind of taking on a little bit bigger role. Most kids didn't play multiple sports. If you were a top-tier athlete, you played one sport.
Right.
But that's changing now, and I think for the better, because you look at a guy like Mark Rippon, who played all these different sports, and he made the NFL. And probably, I would say, being that successful in all 3 of those sports and really molding an athlete from all angles is more beneficial than it is just being a quarterback, for instance.
I would agree. Do you actually think that it's changing, though? Because I would argue that it's becoming more so singularly focused for...
It was. And I saw his stats, and I want to say Dan Dickow tweeted it, because Dan Dickow is a huge proponent of playing multiple sports, even though he, really good basketball player. I think he shared some sort of stat saying that nationwide, the amount of players who are playing multiple sports, top-tier athletes who are playing multiple sports, is actually increasing after, like I said, a 2-decade downturn where it was just specializing. Now, it's not where it should be. I still think players should play multiple sports. But, Mark Rippon here, number 3, won a Super Bowl and still lives in the Spokane area today. He founded the Rippon Foundation up there in the hospitals, which is cool for a lot of families who are going through issues with childhood cancer. So good for Mark Rippon there. All right, so hopefully it starts changing here.
It has to.
Who's your number 4?
Okay, so number 4, I went with Adam Morrison just because the amount of collegiate success that he had, I thought was enough to, vault him into the top 5.
Where did he go to high school?
I don't know. Where did he go to high school? Actually, I didn't do my
the Meade High School.
Ah, that's right. How could I forget?
He was a Meade Senior High School Panther.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Damn right he was.
Co-player of the year.
There he is there. He was co-player of the year there with JJ Redick. That was actually, again, back in the day when I actually start remembering my GU fandom very, very strongly. I remember that heated battle between he and JJ Redick going down the stretch. I mean, they were just both bumping each other off that top perch for the scoring title. Yeah. And ended up being co-players of the year, which was probably fair, and I think that's the way it should have gone, because literally the entire year they were just it was 1A, 1B. It didn't really matter. But I agree. I think what Morrison brought to this university extends more beyond just the actual stats and the success that they had in the postseason. He brought national recognition to GU outside of their success, because everybody knew about the stash. That was just a nationwide phenomenon. And he also drew a lot of negativity, which is fine because he handled it decently well. But he also had type 1 diabetes, which also led to him kind of being kind of a beacon of light for other kids who had type 1 diabetes at the time. Whoopi wants to know why I have a tiny water bottle.
Why do you have a tiny water bottle?
Personal. Because they're in the fridge and they're free. He also wants to know why it's so lonely in the chat room. Sorry.
Yeah, that's too bad.
That's kind of our fault, but it is the way it is. All right, my number 4 here. I kind of went off of the success of runners in the Spokane area. Spokane's had a very strong history of running, cross-country, track, and they have for a long time. So we're going to stick local again. And this guy went to Rogers, and that's Gary Lindgren, a runner from Hilliard who set 8 national high school track records and won 11 NCAA track and cross-country championships. In 1964, he became the first American to beat the Russians in the 10,000-meter run. He's also a member of the National Track and Field Hall of Fame. He pretty much started what it meant to be a runner in Spokane County, and he ended up running at Washington State. Just a massive impact on the history of running in this area. I don't remember exactly where he ended up going. He was one of only 2 people ever to defeat Steve Prefontaine in the NCAA championship. He coached the University of Hawaii's track team from 2005 to 2007. He is still alive today, but I don't know what he's doing right now. That'd be interesting to know. Anyway, super successful runner. The state of Washington has, since him, essentially produced a. He lives in Hawaii, actually.
Must be nice.
That must be very nice because he was elected to the WIA Hall of Fame 3 years ago. Ran the fastest 5,000 meters in high school history, which stood for almost 40 years. That's wild because, again, he's 5'6", and the fact that record stood until almost 2000 with the amount of how much athletics have improved over the last few years is pretty impressive. But, Gary Lindgren was my number 4. Who's your number 5 to round up your list?
Okay, so I went with Steve Entman.
I like that pick.
Cheney High School graduate. Yep. Shout out. He was 2-time Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year. God, I miss when it was called the Pac-10.
I know, right?
First overall pick in 1992. Played for 3 teams. Played for the Colts, Dolphins, and then formerly Redskins from 92 to 97. I guess he was also part of the Spokane Shock coaching staff for from 2007 to 2010. Did not know that.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
But he was just a monster. His career didn't pan out the way in the NFL that people kind of projected it would based on his productivity while he was at the University of Washington. But being from Cheney, and the Cheney Zips is littered with Steve Entman, paraphernalia and posters and pictures and things like that. So that one for me hits close to home. And to come out of Cheney High School and be the number 1 overall pick in an NFL draft is insane to me, having gone to school there myself.
Because Cheney doesn't get the same. I mean, they get some farm guys. They get some big boys, and I'm guessing Steve was probably kind of in that area. But they don't get kind of the same sort of maulers as some of the other actual farm towns might get. So he's kind of to me, Cheney's like a tweener type school. They get some of those guys, but they also kind of have a little bit of the Spokane side.
That's totally what it is, and I feel like there's a misconception about Cheney, and I'm actually surprised to hear you accurately ascertain what Cheney is, because it's really not as much of a farm town, at least the student body isn't, as a lot of people just chalk it up to be based on its location.
And I think because of that, I don't think people realize how many high schools there are heading down the Palouse. There are so many tiny high schools that litter southwest of Spokane, and even a little bit more west of Cheney.
Like Rosalia.
And Sprague, Ritzville, Sprague. I mean, there's a lot of different schools that these kids go to other than Cheney. Cheney's very condensed. There's not the kids who live on the outskirts of Cheney don't go to Cheney. They go to those other smaller schools. So, I do like that. He was a monster. Really cool that he was named Offensive Lineman of the Year in 1991.
Offensive Lineman of the Year?
What did you say? Sorry, defensive.
I was like, damn, that is impressive.
It's really impressive. He played both sides. All right, my number 5. I actually struggled a little bit trying to round out my top 5, but I ended up also picking a football player to be my number 5. I went with Jerry Kramer from Sandpoint, so I kind of flubbed exactly what I wanted to do. But the reason why is he was just elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year. But it was the senior Pro Football Hall of Fame, so it wasn't like the one where you get elected over the right amount of time. He was, I think, seen essentially like, oh, whoops, this guy snuck through the cracks. He is now. But he was named, he was a 5-time All-Pro. Again, he went to Sandpoint, went to University of Idaho, and then played for the Packers. He was a 5-time All-Pro on that Packers offensive line, and he was named to the NFL's 50th anniversary team in 1969, which is really cool, essentially meaning he was one of the best offensive linemen of the first half of the NFL. He played on 5 NFL championship teams with Green Bay, winning a couple of them. And, so good on him. Very well done. My honorable mentions, real quick. I'm going to start with the more interesting one. I really just wanted to put I have 2 honorable mentions because I can. Because I wanted to talk about Deb Copenhaver. That's awesome. Way to get a photo. That's really cool. So he's a member of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. He won back-to-back world championships in saddle bronc riding in 1955 and 56. He went to Wilbur High School. In those other years of being in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, he finished in the top 4 on the 5 other occasions while he was there. In 2011, he lived in Wilbur, but he was born in Wilbur, but he was living in his ranch in Creston. He built a roadside chapel off of Highway 2 out of old cedar poles from the Bonneville Power Administration. And, just really kind of fun. I just thought that was really cool. My other guy who I wanted to put in my honorable mention, I interviewed his kids a couple of years back, was Tom Sneva. Went to Lewis and Clark, Eastern, and then raced for Penske Racing. There he is with Texaco as his title sponsor. He was a 3-time runner-up in the Indy 500 and then won it in 1983. He won 2 IndyCar seasons, became the first driver to top 200 miles per hour in Indy 500 qualifying. He was inducted to the Motorsports Hall of Fame in 2005. He also moved to Arizona. This is actually hilarious. He lived on a golf course, and he built a golf cart after he retired that could break 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
He literally is. It's a world record. He is the fastest golf cart in the world.
That's an awesome little trinket.
That's really cool. So his sons and I think daughters and grandkids all still race here in Spokane at the Spokane County Raceway. They do some midget racing, which not actual but it's small.
Yeah, I got you.
But yeah, he only comes back about once a year, essentially. But that was my 2 honorable mentions.
Okay, yeah, I only went with 1. Jason Hansen.
I'm glad you put Jason
another
I
mead product. Washington State Cougar. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler for the Detroit Lions in '97 and 1999. He played for 21 years from '92 to 2012.
Yep.
He was just an Iron Man. He was just a constant, and I remember at one point he had played as many years in the NFL as he had lived half of his life not in the NFL. He had spent half of his life in the NFL.
Long.
Right.
Yep.
He was a second-team All-Pro in 1997, and he was a consensus All-American in 1989 when he was at.
Did you see how many points he scored?
I
think he finished 7th.
2,150. 2,150.
7th or 9th all time?
Yeah.
At the time of his
retirement.
retirement.
Says he holds multiple NFL records.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had kicked the longest kick in WSU history, 62 yards. That is a great one.
And he's in the Ring of Honor in Detroit now. So.
Yes, which is also kind of unique. Courtney says no cap. Did you see that back there, Sam?
We're back. We're back.
Any comments?
The show has been too on the rails without her.
We're on it right now. So McWhippy asked, why am I wearing a Man City shirt when I am based in the U.S.? He is, so he's not from the United States then.
I thought we
now it's actually
determined that a year ago.
When he first came onto the spot.
Well, right, because he put a U in favorite, and we're like, that's not an American way of spelling that.
No, it's not.
And so I'm based in the United States and talk about American football. Why am I wearing a soccer jersey? Great point. That's my favorite non-MLS team.
Boom. Take that, McWhippy. Yeah. Let's see.
And they have been for 10
Clap
years.
back to
right
that.
after the Saudis bought them.
Nice.
As usual. They come and bring their oil money and spend a lot of money. And I'm happy about it. I'm not going to complain. But they are bad people.
Bet you're not happy about Aguero.
No, I'm not. He just made his debut for Barcelona this weekend. By the way.
That looked weird.
It looked very weird. And he's been very unlucky with injuries recently.
Oh, nice memory you got there. Yeah, no, he's not had the best luck in the injury department lately, but you know who is pretty lucky?
Who?
Always lucky. Perpetual state of luckiness. LuckyBird, a Spokane-based e-commerce and digital marketing company that is dedicated to helping local companies scale in the online world of e-commerce and digital marketing. So we always want you guys to visit luckybirdbrands.com to have a down-to-earth, no-pressure conversation about your digital marketing and e-commerce strategies.
The only pressure you should have is the fact if you haven't utilized their services, you should.
Yeah, because we're coming for you.
Yeah.
No cap.
When you get the rooster tatted on your knee, you should incorporate some like knee cap, something.
Put a cap on
Kneecap?
it.
Cap?
Like a little
Yeah.
baseball cap.
I'll just have him tattoo no on my knee.
Yep. Yes, that would be
cap.
great. Yep.
That could actually work. All right.
Incredible.
We're not going to do picks. We will, but we're not going to do picks live. We'll just send them to each other, and Sam could, I guess, be in on that.
Sick.
No, he's not usually in on that, actually. Never mind.
I was say I don't know until you guys show up.
Yeah,
so.
never mind. You're out. Essentially, we tied again this week. Even though we had 4 different games, we ended up splitting those 4 different games. So that's really awesome.
I had a really bad week. I mean, I was counting on my wins. As long as the Bills win tonight, I think I'm going to come away with 9. Well, I guess that is all right because there weren't 16 games.
Right.
So that actually
I know, it's a
that
little
sounds better.
confusing.
Okay.
Right.
It wasn't actually as bad as I thought.
Exactly. All right, so we're going to skip picks. I do want to talk about the Seahawks game just for a couple minutes before we move on to the finale of the show. These are my thoughts.
Please.
Geno played fine,
Yes.
not good enough to win. If he would have played the entire second half as he did in the entire game, Seattle would have won. Because he actually had a really good second half. He completed like 15
You mean
for
turning
18
around
passes.
and handing the ball off to Alex Collins?
No, he
I know.
He was like 15 for 18 for like 180 yards. He did have the fumble in the second half and / overtime, which was obviously brutal. So technically, if we want to be kind of a little tough on him, he has caused the final offensive play of the game by turning it over.
Yeah.
TJ Watt's arguably the best defensive player in the league. It happens. The throw last week was unfortunate.
Tyler also fell down on that route, so I don't know how much
where it could have gone.
Right.
Tyler was a little soft on it for sure. So Geno Smith can win this team football games if the defense plays the way they played yesterday. The defense actually played pretty well. They didn't give up 450 yards, which is awesome because I didn't want to have that NFL record.
Yeah, I didn't either. We need to keep in mind, though, you need to keep in mind that we're not going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers offense every week, though. I mean, so last season,
Right.
the defense turned around. They started playing better in the latter half of the season. But if you look at each one of the teams that they – yeah, exactly. I mean, they played the football team, the Jets, the Giants. So those were – I don't know that this defense fixed anything, that they're any better. Jamal Adams is still awful. He's still really bad in coverage. He has no ball awareness. He has no ball skills. He was better. You're going to see it, but
they didn't hide. He didn't. They didn't put him in coverage very often.
No, they didn't. He hung out at the line of scrimmage a lot more.
He played so much better this game because he didn't. Yeah, he didn't have a play outside of the play you're going to see, which wasn't a. It wasn't like he gave up a touchdown. Like
no, he didn't give up a touchdown.
Now he prevented himself from probably getting a touchdown.
Scoring a touchdown, right?
But he played much better. Along the line of scrimmage, the defensive backs, the corners played so much better. Trey Brown looked really good.
Trey Brown
left corner
I'm
spot.
excited.
He looked really good. Yeah. DJ Reed looked so much more comfortable at that right cornerback spot. Quandre Diggs didn't really get his name called, which is fine. I think it's free safety. That's fine. He's not an Earl Thomas. He's not going to make game-busting plays. It's just you hope that he makes the plays that he needs to make, and that's what happened. Granted, Big Ben also wasn't attacking down the field because it's Big Ben, and he can't do that anymore.
Right.
Granted, the Steelers did score 23 against the Bills. That was in week 1, so the Bills were still getting kind of figured out. But the Steelers only scored 10 against the Bengals. They scored 17 against the Raiders. Then they put up 17 against the Packers, who actually have a competent defense. And the Broncos last week, which actually has a good defense, they scored 27. So their offense is middle of the pack.
Yeah.
I'd say middle of the pack.
I think that's generous.
Because Najee Harris is probably he is the best rookie running back in top 2 offensive rookie players.
It was a great fantasy day for me, though, because I had Najee and I had Alex Collins because I have Chris Carson on my team. Right. So obviously
I'm in a vicious cockfight right now again.
Nice.
Yeah. As I have been the last few weeks. So my other thoughts are yes, Jamal Adams did decent. The issues with this team. He did decent.
No, it's okay.
What's wrong?
We're having a moment here without you.
No. Okay, I have a question for you. This is really a left turn in the conversation. Are you still getting words from your friends each week?
No, I kind of forgot No, I haven't.
When
been.
you said cockfight, I thought that was one of the ones they gave you.
No,
I
the
was like, is he
cockfight's
still
fine.
doing that?
A vicious cockfight?
Yeah, vicious cockfight.
Well, it was a good analogy. I just wasn't sure if it was.
I haven't been getting words. That's a great point.
Okay.
I should start doing that again because
that was one of those things where they would have been like, hey, get cockfight into it.
I would
And that
argue
would've been a
that
good
was out
one
of
in.
pocket.
No, I've used that terminology before. No,
Okay.
maybe not on the show, but in life.
I was just curious if you were still doing that because cockfight seems like it's not your normal vernacular.
Wow.
Did we just both say
Holy
vernacular?
shit.
I think we should end
Wow.
the show right now.
Okay, that was pretty
impressive.
good. That
All
was
right,
really
So
good.
yeah, I was just curious
Courtney,
if it
I'm begging
was
Sam.
if it was one of the words your friends gave you.
Nope.
If you were still doing that.
Nope.
Okay.
No, but if you guys are into cockfighting, I have a place. I have to be careful how I exactly say this. I have a plate. Yeah, there's no careful way to say that.
I'm out on this one.
Yeah,
I'm out on
there's
this
literally no.
No,
way
Sam's got to be in on this one because he's going to get a rooster tatted
That's a
on
good
his
point.
knee.
Yeah.
Good point.
Thank
point.
you. Okay.
Big Whippy has to go. His wife just got home and she doesn't like beers all over the place.
I want more insight into his life. We need to start
should get
asking
him on the
personal
show
questions.
someday.
Literally
Yeah,
got
we
to go, wife home, and she doesn't like beers all over the place.
Damn it. I love that he drinks while he watches
That
us.
is hilarious.
That is totally within the spirit. That
Well, you gotta think this is essentially evening for him, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
8 o'clock.
so
It's 8 o'clock in England right now.
Yeah.
We gotta get him on the show.
What kind of
someday.
beers? What kind of beers, McWhippy?
Guinness. He's for sure just a Guinness man.
You're thinking just straight Guinness?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
No, it's something that we don't even know. It's some.
It's
some micro brew
Yeah.
in wherever.
Yeah.
London,
England, maybe. I don't know where he's at. We'll have to ask.
general
All right.
UK.
So my
Bye,
last
Nick
two
Whippy.
thoughts. The offensive, I think he's already gone. The offensive and defensive line is a problem. Dwayne Brown has gotten beat the last 2 weeks on a decently good.
Dwayne Brown's looked old this season.
The last 2 games, he looked really good at the beginning of the year, but the last 2 games specifically, granted, he played Aaron Donald, and they actually put Aaron Donald out there against him and said, go beat him, and he did.
He did.
And TJ Watt, again, really good. We just faced 2 really good defenses, really good defenses.
They were able to move in the ground game, though. They
Yeah,
were able to
they're
move
maulers.
them off the line of
I
scrimmage
agree.
pretty
Their-
well.
Their pass pro was problematic, but their rush. But again, the Steelers had 10 tackles for a loss, so they either were getting big chunk plays or they were getting knocked in the backfield. But overall, their rush offense looked better than it has over the last couple weeks. The other problem is the defensive line. They're not getting any pass rush. The injury to Darrell Taylor is a big problem. If that ends up being serious, he does have full movement of his limbs, and they're calling it a sore neck. They're doing more tests to see if exactly what's wrong, but that is a problem. Seattle's now 2-4 early on this season. Their bye week's still a couple weeks away. They're in a very problematic spot.
You think so?
Cardinals are 6-0. The Rams are 5-1. Essentially, the Seahawks are playing for a wild card spot at this point. They need to beat out.
They're playing for draft positioning. Thank you very much.
No, because they could still lose. They could still lose 3 games and still be in playoff contention because they're playing for the second wild card spot. The Rams or the Cardinals are going to take the first wild card spot, and outside of that, it'll be the Packers are going to win the North.
Also, how do we feel about Shane Waldron through 6 weeks?
He's lost some of his shine. He has some really good play designs. I'm like, why aren't we doing
They
more of
opened
that?
overtime with a run to Travis Homer. Why are we giving Travis Homer the ball at
Travis Homer did break a third down run for like 20 yards in overtime.
Great.
Or
Yes.
in the fourth
Props
quarter.
to him. Howard, come on. We know.
Well, there's no
what
one
Trav-
else. Alex Collins got hurt, and then it's DJ Dallas or Travis Homer, and I think they want.
I would prefer DJ, honestly. But it's just the mentality. I don't know. It hurts. That whole thing. It didn't even feel like I was watching a real game. It didn't feel canon.
Second half did. Second half was better. Second
Well,
half.
no, I don't mean from a competitive standpoint.
Oh.
I just meant like the strangeness, the being in Heinz Field on Sunday night, and the reminiscing of Super Bowl 40, and just having Geno
that's the worst.
play quarterback, and then Also, can we talk about DK?
Oh yeah, actually, I want to talk about him real quick. Let's put that graphic up real quick. So this was last night, or actually last night and this morning. So Shannon Sharp came at DK after the game. What was DK thinking? Why try to play hero ball in that situation? And DK responded this morning, "Stop questioning me, little boy."
Yeah,
That's awfully bold to a Hall of Famer. Hall of Fame tight end.
Yeah, and
ball
I
catcher.
don't like or respect Shannon. Most of
I
his
also
takes, and
don't,
the fact
yeah.
that he's on undisputed with Skip Bayless. I mean,
Right. Is horrible.
your credibility takes quite the hit there. Also, when people tweet and they're typing on their phones, and did you notice
The spacing.
Yeah, it's just like weird little
Yeah.
things. It's D period space K. What?
Space. Period or whatever it was.
There has to be a conscious effort to
Yeah, it's
tweet
bad.
that. Right?
So
I don't know.
yeah, we'll talk about DK. Is that what you want to talk about? The fumble?
I don't.
Or just in general?
It's just a boneheaded play. It's just the complete lack of awareness, and then also allowing it to get punched out. It's just.
It was interesting. I don't mind him fighting for extra yards because he's on the sideline. If he gets tackled, he's going out of bounds. I don't mind that.
But he just didn't.
Well, he would have in that situation if you're going to do that.
That's quite the assumption, though, because you have to think that at least the defenders are aware in that situation because DK was seemingly not. So, I mean, if they're going to tackle him, they're going to make an effort
But
to.
they're not going to, though. That's what I'm saying. He's so big, I don't think he would have fallen down in bounds.
Okay.
If you're going to do that, that's fine, but you have to protect the football in that situation.
Also, I didn't get to say this last week, but I had a theory that Lockett was going to suffer more from Geno being at the helm than DK was because Russ has a rapport and a chemistry with him and knows where and when to get Tyler the ball because of his small stature. I don't think Geno has that same nuance to his passes. I mean,
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
anyway,
I think that
seemed to be the case so far, so I just kind of wanted to toot my horn on that, even though I didn't say it out loud.
I agree. You said it out loud now. All right, Jabroni, I'll go first. You said you had one too? Outside of
Everybody was Jabroni this week.
There were some bad ones. All right,
there were
let's
some good
quickly do
choices.
my first one of Deanna Taurasi here.
The push to the referee. I'm going back in.
This was earlier
no
this
technical, no
last week where she
suspension. It was
pushes
a
an
fine
official
for Diana
over
Taurasi. Nobody on
as her
yesterday's
teammates on the
panel
ground.
had issue with
I mean,
me.
it's very obvious.
I'm
she's pushing,
sensing a
like,
disturbance
you can see
in the
her
forest
arms
here.
extend
Oh,
on the
hello,
back of the
Sarah
official.
Spade. Oh, hello.
Yeah,
WNBA
wow.
Finals
I
after
actually didn't
Chicago
see
Game
this.
3
I saw
tonight
the
for
shot of
Sunday.
the
Is
Sky
it
player
Sunday?
standing over, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is a
Right.
legendary photo."
Yep. So she got fined $2,500, which in the WNBA is a decent chunk of change, even for a high-end athlete like Deanna. Problem is, she should have been suspended. Doesn't matter. She lost the finals anyway, but she should have been suspended because it's very clear in the rule book, any sort of contact and forcible contact with an official is an automatic one-game suspension. That's what that was, and the reason she wasn't is because she's the best player in the WNBA, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean,
and so she's a jabroni for even doing that. I don't understand what goes, and she's smarter than that. Like she is the top player in the WNBA. That's like Tom Brady doing something. It's not quite the same, but that's like
Tom Brady got suspended for 4 games. I mean,
right?
That's
Yeah,
a whole different conversation. And if we
deflator.
want to, right?
That's easy because he's a cheater. But I kind of appreciate it now. For some weird reason, I don't understand why I'm becoming a Brady fan, but it's really.
How could you
freaking me out.
not?
I wasn't because he was on the Patriots, and the Patriots are cheaters.
They're just better than everybody.
It's really frustrating. So there's mine. My second one, real quick. Yesterday was the anniversary of Sean Taylor. They were just.
Dude, oh my God. We should probably talk about all this stuff at some point.
About Mahomes in general? Or about what?
No. Just what's going on, the John Gruden thing, emails, and how Washington's at the crux.
But Washington, for some reason, isn't getting. Well, they're done with the investigation.
The fact that they, on 3 days' notice, were like, hey, everybody, don't look at the emails. Let's look at retiring Sean Taylor's jersey. Perhaps the best player in our history.
Well, I think this was scheduled.
It was a slap. It was not. No, it was not. It was not. The family of Sean Taylor was informed 3 days prior to Sunday.
Oh, they're trying. So they're just
no.
trying to
This
get
is
good
in fact. This is disgusting. This is
not good.
awful.
Yeah, it's not good when
you gotta hope that Miami does it right and actually does him the service of retiring him properly. And dude, it is bad. No, it was awful. It was an awful PR stunt and really a slap in the face and a disservice to Sean Taylor, his legacy, and who he was. So. Washington, also a jabroni.
Fair enough. And they're also a jabroni partially for this jabroni. Jackson Mahomes tweeted, or actually he put a TikTok up, which is since deleted, and he apologized for what he did in this video. Go ahead.
Did he actually?
Play this? Yeah.
Oh.
I had the young high thing, fuck my bro and gave her brain, and she expect for me to love her. I can never be a lame.
So, yes, it's roped off, but do you want to know why it's roped off?
Why?
That's where people were supposed to walk. The field around that was roped off. So if you go back and look, the people who were like the VIPs of that day were walking all over his number already. So that was another kind of like Washington, like, what are you thinking?
What are you doing?
But if you're Jackson Mahomes, if you're anybody, why you got to have a better idea of your surroundings. Like, don't dance on the number. Like, I get it. Like, you're walking.
Well, obviously,
it's like, think about it. That's like, and it's not quite like this, but I'm going to put it in this perspective because I can, because it's my show. You have a headstone. You have someone buried in the ground. Sometimes, you're walking and you look and you accidentally step on one. You're not supposed to, but sometimes it happens. That's like stepping on it and be like, oh, Well, let's take a video of me dancing on this. Again, not quite the same, but similar. Like, you should have to have good awareness of what's around you.
Well, he's obviously not a bright kid.
He's an idiot.
He grew up in a very privileged family, obviously, with his dad being a superstar athlete, and grew up rich and probably has not had to, do a lot for himself. I can't believe that Patrick and Jackson came from the same man. Like, it's just insane how on polar opposite ends of the spectrum they are as humans. But the fact that he doesn't understand why people hate him, and then he does stuff like this, and it's
right.
yeah.
It's like, I wonder why.
He is the gift that keeps on giving. He and LeBron.
Yes, exactly. All right, what's yours?
Well, so it was also Jackson Mahomes, but I'm going to give it to our Lord and Savior, Jamal Adams. We're going to run the clip.
Okay.
Hey, but it's for another reason.
Yes.
It's for another reason.
After this clip, though, there is a reason why he did this.
Oh, okay. No, you're not expecting the clip. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hold on a second. I'm going to see if I might have knocked. Oh, it is that video. Okay, no, I did grab it. I'm done.
So he's playing the game of football where the football is the object of the game. And, dude, I hate this man. I hate him in a Seahawks uniform. I hate the money that we're paying him. I hate that he introduced himself on Sunday Night Football as the best in the nation, as his PFF grade is right down below.
Okay.
Oh, no. Okay, I would love to hear your nonsensical defense of this man.
A couple thoughts. So first
it's
off,
okay to be objective about your own team.
So Pro Football Focus. It is very funny. I even tweeted and I said doink. Jamal Adams doink. Like
that was a doy play, as Julian Edelman would put it.
So he was making fun of a meme of a high school kid that did that in his pregame introductions. It's like it's verbatim. He said the exact same thing.
I don't believe him.
I swear it.
That's fine. I don't believe him.
I believe him in that regard. Second, Pro Football Focus, as historically and very has been proven to not be as accurate as they like it to be. The only reason why Pro Football Focus's rankings get put on
is because of Chris Collinsworth. No, I understand.
Right.
However, if you want to pull out any other metrics or any other databases,
I get it. No, I definitely get it. When I saw that, I'm like, you better make some plays today, Jamal. You better make some plays.
He sucks.
Carroll said he was just looking for the hit, not the ball. But I was like, Pete,
dude,
you look
Pete's
at his
defense of his players too.
What is he supposed to say? Go out there and be like,
no. Hey, Dan Campbell said he basically.
Well, yeah, because Jared Goff is trash.
Jamal Adams is trash.
He's not
the
trash.
Seahawks defense is trash. There are so many aspects of the defense that are trash, and that can be assessed and critiqued as trash. But no, you're never going to hear it from Pete.
Well, yeah, I don't want to hear from Pete. He's a player's coach. He's a player's coach.
It all sucks.
Player's coach. Player's coach.
Hey.
All right. Let's do the sports stuff of the day. This day in sports history. First off, 1912, black boxer Jack Johnson arrested for violating the Mann Act for transporting women across state lines for immoral purposes due to his relationship with a white woman, Lucille Cameron, allegedly a prostitute. You're welcome. 1967, MLB American League votes to allow Kansas City Athletics to move to Oakland and expand the league to 12 teams in 1971. As Kansas City and Seattle are added to expansion. So on this day, Seattle was kind of announced as a potential expansion.
That first one was not like the rest.
You're right. Very interesting, right? He was sentenced to a year in prison as well.
Right.
In 1974, Chicago Bull Nate Thurmond becomes the first in the NBA to complete a quadruple double. 22 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists, and 12 blocks. And in 2009, I actually saw this video this morning. Tom Brady throws 5 second-quarter touchdowns against the Titans, an NFL record for touchdown passes in one quarter. The insane part about that is that was played in the snow.
Yep.
He did that in the snow.
Sure did.
Close. What? Oh, goat. I heard yo. And then I heard go.
What's up?
All right. We'll do your closing time because I want to end with mine.
I don't remember. Sam, what media did? Oh, I wanted to kind of spark a conversation. Okay, so Gabrielle Onion, it's Union, but I think it's funny pronouncing Union as
Classic.
Onion. My high school teacher did that, and I thought it was the funniest shit ever. Anyway, so she's married to Dwayne Wade, in case you didn't know.
Right.
And so she said, basically, I think the conversation was something about, people being upset about, the 2011 through 14 Miami Heatles and how they were constructed with the decision and everything. And then, she tries to spin it and put it back on Boston.
Right.
And how they're, first of all,
Whoops.
Do you think those are even in fair comparisons?
Not at that point in their career.
Okay, right. And how it came to fruition, I would also argue that the Celtics was a little bit more organic.
There wasn't as many players saying, hey, come here. It was more like...
it was more orchestrated by the organization, less so Paul Pierce being like, hey, get your ass over here.
Who's the GM?
For who?
Boston.
Danny Ainge. Thank you, God.
Yeah, I kept thinking Inge. I'm like, it's not Inge. It's really close to Inge. I feel like it's more a credit to his wheeling and dealing more so than an actual forcible super team building component like they do in today's NBA.
That was just orchestrated by the players.
Again, it is a super team. If we're going purely based off of, yes, it was a super team, but was it orchestrated in the same way that the Heat were? No.
Right, correct. And then just in general, like super teams, if you go back to the Lakers, like in the 70s and 80s, or if you go back to... I mean,
there's plenty.
I mean, with Kareem going over to...
The Bulls had essentially a super team. They had absolute monsters on that team around Jordan there for a couple years.
So I think, like, they've always existed, but everyone is constructed differently, and the intent and the final product is always different. And the like, the way that the Heat was constructed was so unique and so hateable for very justifiable reasons. I mean, what?
So McWhippy came back 11 minutes after. He said that she doesn't like beers all over the place.
Okay.
He said, I'm back. I managed to seduce my wife into forgiving me. Plus, I got her one of her favorite wines. And he spelled favorite with a U. So
Wow, he's just callback.
That's
man.
super funny.
All right. Well, does that mean she's watching the show?
Could be. I wonder what his wife's name is. Mrs. McWhippy? Mrs. Whippy?
Miss Whippy.
Miss Whippy.
Well played, Miss Whippy. I
Miss
like
Whippy.
it.
That's what I'm going to go with. I agree. I think there's always been super teams, and this conversation is always going to happen.
Obviously, she's just defending Dwayne and that team, but the criticism and the hate that they got, there were reasons for it. Those didn't just come out of nowhere because everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is the first time a super team's constructed." No,
right.
You're missing the point.
I agree. All right, my closing time, which Andrew hates for sure, is Russell Wilson pregame. Actually, he was at practice all week. This is him pregame on Heinz Field. He was essentially one of the only guys out there. He ran the offense through multiple different scenarios, from 2-minute drill to within his own 5, and he's running plays. He's just with there's no ball. Obviously, he can't throw. But he's doing what kids do in their backyard when with playing just with a fake ball. Anyway, he ran over 200 plays pregame through his head and on the field there, which is kind of cool. Like, a lot of people, I think that's cool. Like, because Drew Brees did this when he was hurt with his different ailments, and even Chris Collinsworth mentioned on the broadcast last night that it's a really good way to keep your mind active on what's going on. Yeah, it looks kind of stupid.
It's tacky as hell.
I think it's
especially when he was like back in the end zone and he was breaking the fake huddle. No, it doesn't. It's very on brand, which is why I cringe and why I can't.
See, I don't cringe anymore. I think he literally is just it's football, and that's all that's on his mind.
That's worse.
I don't think so. I like it.
No, I do genuinely think it's him. I don't think that's a defense for the cringe, though.
I don't think that's cringy. I think Mr. Unlimited doing that is cringy.
Yeah, no, it is. I just don't know why Twitter lost their minds over it.
Well,
it's not that crazy. Like you said, Drew Brees did it, and I mean, as a professional athlete that's as locked in as he is and always preaches that he is, I mean, it's not
all in.
It's not crazy. I mean, Russillo tweeted, he said, "Yes, I saw the Wilson video." It's like, yeah, thank you. Yes, let's move on with our day. It's okay. He's a gross man. He's a gross. Whatever market gets him next, enjoy him. Enjoy he and his wife, because they are something.
Do you know Seattle? I saw this really crazy stat to end the show. Seattle, over its 50, 40, 50, it's 58 years. Over its 58 years in its franchise's history, 56, somewhere in there, they've had 23 starting quarterbacks in its history. That's wild, because they went back and you looked at the Rams, the Niners, and the Cardinals in that exact same time span, and they all had like double the amount of QBs that have started for their franchises. Yeah. Seattle's had some ridiculous amount of consistency at their quarterback position with Dave Craig, Jim Zorn, Hasselbeck, obviously Wilson, and then
I kind of miss Hasselbeck.
Oh, you have to. How can you not? All right, I got to end the show. I got to get down to Ford, my favorite place. Over to Ford, Washington.
Okay.
Nice 40-minute
Have
drive.
fun.
I will have fun. Seahawks play Monday night against the Saints, and the Manning brothers will be back, which I'm actually I'm going to have on a separate screen because I'm kind of curious how they're going to be talking. I haven't watched a broadcast of the Manning brothers yet, but everything I've seen seems interesting enough to have it on the secondary
It's pretty
screen.
good. They should stop having guests. It should just be the two of them. They should. That's I think.
Unless the guests are worth it. They can't bring on guests who take away from their broadcast. If they can bring guys
they're bringing on LeBron James, and then it
that's
just
stupid.
becomes
That's
like,
dumb.
oh, LeBron, you would have been the greatest tight end ever. And it's
Yeah,
like,
that
no,
was
I'd
stupid.
rather kill myself than listen to this.
That was dumb. So Kraken play tonight and tomorrow. Sounders play Wednesday. City plays tomorrow. There's all sorts of sports going on.
Mariners
the
play in
Kraken
April,
involved.
right?
Mariners play in March, end of March.
Okay.
Don't you worry.
Yeah.
What an idiot, right? What an absolute moron. All right, episode number 63 next week on Monday, same time, same place. And have a good rest of your week.